Hello everyone, greetings of the day. Now, today let us see the discussion of revision test paper of Enterprise Information System for November 2022 attempt. So, first of all, in section A, we have a case scenario, and basing on that case scenario, we have some MCQs to be answered. Let us look at them. First, let us read the case scenario. Since 90s, RS Limited has been one of the leading companies in India dealing in the business of pulses. But lately in 2019, with the purpose to expand its business, the management of RS Limited decided to start its business in the field of spices as well. Already they are in the business of pulses, but now they decided to enter into the business of spices. To develop infrastructure, procure necessary processing equipment, in order to promote cross-sell activities, the management used various data analytics techniques to predict customers' behavior and probability of equipment failure. So, this is one important point to be noted. The organization RS Limited has used data analytics techniques for what? To predict the consumer behavior and also to know the probability of equipment failure. So, based on the results of said analysis, the management of RS Limited selected a supplier called XY Limited. So, RS Limited, they have chosen a supplier for them to supply the machinery, and the name of that company is XY Limited, and obtained the requisite equipment from it so as to increase its production and to provide quality products to its customers. At that time, XY Limited had a policy to offer a discount of 2% to its customers if the cash payment was made within 7 days. However, RS Limited made the payment of 5 lakh after 10 days using RTGS. So, what is the mode of payment they have used? They have used RTGS, that is real-time gross settlement system. And RS Limited installed these new product procured machines in its various operational units, and to operate them, the workforce of RS Limited was strengthened. That means they have recruited new employees. Furthermore, RS Limited decided to expand its business ventures through online mode by collaborating with various renowned e-commerce websites, where it can offer its products to customers under various discounts and schemes. So, they have collaborated, RS Limited have collaborated with various renowned e-commerce websites, and these websites will display the electronic catalog of RS Limited, and in return RS Limited shall pay these websites suitable commission charges for the sales revenue generated from these websites. So, RS Limited, they have entered into collaboration with many e-commerce vendors, where those e-commerce people will display the price lists and catalogs of RS Limited, and the sales that is generated through those e-commerce sites, for that this RS Limited will pay a commission to those e-commerce vendors. That is the business model. And with the business expansion, the management of RS Limited noticed to bring out the following changes in their existing automated setup. So, RS Limited started entering into new business of spices, and with the business expansion, they want to automate the things. Now, what they have automated? Their organization security policy shall be made robust and business continuity plan shall be formulated. So, they are thinking of formulating business continuity plan, that is BCP, and they also want to improve their security policy and make it more robust. Robust in the sense very strong. And to mitigate the risk of unauthorized entries in their working environment, the RS Limited switched its manual attendance system to biometric system. So, they want to strengthen their HR and payroll processes. For that reason, they are going for automated biometric system of taking attendance from the employees rather than taking attendance manually. And to enhance the physical security, like the deployment of security guards, installation of CCTV cameras is required to supervise the visitors' access. So, they have installed CC cameras. Now, if you observe some of the points I have underlined, They are related to our lessons. Now let us see the MCQs one after one. Now the first MCQ which you need to answer based on the case scenario is, the company RS Limited decides to buy new equipment for its latest business of spices. That already we studied. Which risk management strategy is being exercised by the management if they decided to buy new machinery from XY Limited? Now we need to identify the risk management strategy. So how many risk management strategies are there for us? We have tolerate or accept the risk, terminate the risk, transfer the risk, treat the risk. Now this RS Limited, they are purchasing machinery from XY Limited. They are purchasing new machinery from XY Limited, which is shortlisted after making thorough research. So purchasing new machinery from a reliable vendor will definitely help you to terminate or eliminate the risk. So the answer will be terminate or eliminate the risk. This is the right answer. So it will not be tolerate the risk. Tolerate the risk means accepting the risk, knowing that risk is there and you are ready to accept the risk. So that is not tolerating the risk. And if it is a kind of insurance or some other collaboration, it may be transferring the risk. But here we are simply buying a new machinery from a reliable vendor to eliminate the risk. Okay, and we are not at all treating the risk here. Okay, so the answer is terminate the risk. Now what is the next MCQ? Which type of core banking services is being used by RS Limited to make the payment to XY Limited for the purchase of necessary processing equipment? So here in the case study it is given that the RS Limited paid to XY Limited using RTGS, okay, real-time gross settlement. So this RTGS is a kind of remittance system. It is not collection system. Collection means if you give a check to someone, it gets collected. So it is not collecting. And in the case of collection, there will be clearing also. And RS Limited did not pay any advances also. So it is a remittance system. RTGS is a kind of remittance system, remitting the money from their account and paying it to XY Limited. So the correct answer is remittances. It is not collection, it is not clearing, because no checks are involved. You did not deposit any checks, and it is not granting of any advances by the bank. It is remittance. Now, for new business of spices, RS Limited decides to collaborate with renowned e-commerce websites for selling its products through online mode. Which of the following term related to e-marketing fits best in this case? See, we have some e-marketing related terminology that is given there in our syllabus, like e-malls, buyer aggregators, e-auction, e-distribution. So, for example, first let us understand what is an e-mall. So, an e-mall is a kind of web portal or a website where it makes listings of different companies. So, here RS Limited has entered into collaboration with many e-commerce companies, for many e-commerce websites to sell their products. So definitely that comes under e-malls. That is called as an e-mall. Now why it can't be buyer aggregator? See, buyer aggregators are like Swiggy and Zomato, where they get orders from the buyers and give it to the restaurant people and all. So it cannot be buyer aggregator. And e-auction, here there is no concept of auction here. RS Limited is not a company involved in auctioning the things. So e-auction is not at all valid thing here. And e-distribution, here if goods are distributed online like softwares and all, there may be e-distribution. So that is also not involved here. So what is involved? RS Limited entered into collaboration with some other website developers, e-commerce developers and e-commerce vendors, and the catalogs of RS Limited are being displayed in the websites of those e-commerce people. So it is a kind of e-mall arrangement. So the answer is e-malls. Now, the next MCQ. Considering the expansion of business of RS Limited, it uses various data analytics tools to predict the consumer behavior. Yes, that is fine. Which advanced data analytics tool you think has been used by the company? See, we have lot of data analytics tools like, numerical analysis to understand the numbers, the sales numbers, the purchase numbers and all. And we have a data warehouse. Actually, data warehouse is nowhere related here. Data warehouse is a collection of large data. It's a very big database. So here we are talking about analysis. We are not talking about storing the data. So data warehouse is not at all relevant here. And the next one, predictive analysis. Yes, what RS Limited has done using data analytics tools is predictive analysis. Predictive analysis of the consumer behavior and the predictive analysis of the businesses it was entering into. So the answer is predictive analysis. Now, why it can't be data mining? See, data mining is the procedure of analyzing the data. And if you want to know what will be the future trend, that will be called as predictive analysis, because here we are making a prediction. We are trying to predict in what way the consumer thinks. So that comes under predictive analysis. It is not data mining. Of course, data mining is a larger term, but here we have been asked specifically. If we have been asked specifically, the answer is predictive analysis. The next one, RS Limited decides to restrict the unauthorized access in the company by changing its employee attendance system from manual to biometric. Already we studied in the case scenario. So now, which control under application control framework deals with biometric authentication? So this comes under IS risks and controls. So whenever employees enter into the office or whenever the attendance is being taken, RS Limited has decided to stop the manual system and start using the biometric system. So what kind of control can we think that of? So it is definitely not an input control, because here employees do not enter any data there. It is just the case of taking the attendance. So it is not an input control. And is it processing control? Taking the attendance is not a processing control. Processing control means after inputting the data, if you want to process the data, you need to have certain controls like real memory controls, virtual memory controls, processor controls and all. So that is not a processing control. And is it a boundary control? Yes, it is a boundary control, because entering passwords, login credentials, using the biometric system for authentication or authorization, these all things, they come under boundary controls. Like plastic card, you can use biometric devices, plastic cards, PIN numbers, cryptographic controls, passwords, these all things as boundary controls. Now this biometric system of attendance that is being employed by RS Limited comes under boundary control. Okay, so the right answer is boundary control. And is it communication control? Where is communication involved here? Of course, there may be, but taking attendance, specifically that point is asked. It comes under boundary control only. So communication controls come when you send the data from one location to another location. So with that, we have finished the MCQs. Now let us enter into the descriptive questions from chapter 1, automated business processes. Now let us see the question here. Risks are not always counted by implementing controls. Very important and beautiful point. Many people think in a wrong way that by having controls you can encounter the risks, you can kill the risks. No, risks are not always counted by implementing the controls. Based on the types of risks and its significance to business, certain risk management strategies can be used in isolation or in combination. Briefly explain the risk management strategies that can be used to manage various risks associated with any business. See, in EAS, you should expect this kind of questions to be asked rather than directly asking the question. Briefly explain the risk management strategies that can be used to manage various risks associated with any business. So those days are gone where the questions are directly asked. So you will have certain introduction in the question, you will have certain a small scenario is built, and basing on that you will be asked the question. So right, anyway, this is a very easy question and very important question. So this question talks about various risk management strategies. Now let us look at the answer. Various risk management strategies. Now what are the various risk management strategies that are available? Either you have to tolerate or accept the risk, or the second one, you have to either terminate or eliminate the risk, or you have to transfer or share the risk with others, or you have to treat or mitigate the risk. So these are the things that are involved in risk management. These are the risk management strategies. Okay. Now let us try to understand the risk management strategies one after another. Now what do you mean by tolerating or accepting the risk? Toleration or accepting the risk. What does it mean? See, one of the most important functions of the management is to manage the risk, and manage the risk to be within the risk appetite of the organization. And there will be certain risks which are very minor, okay, because their impact is very low and the probability of occurrence of those risks is very low. So in that case, what is the option that is available to the management? Instead of trying to treat the risk or mitigate the risk or handle the risk, it is better to consciously accept the risk as a cost of doing business. Okay, so instead of trying to modify the things, instead of trying to remove the risk or eliminate the risk, it is better you accept the risk consciously. Because when you are doing certain business, definitely there will be certain risks. So it is better you accept the risk. But you should know, you should accept it consciously. That is the most important thing. Now, what is the example for that? A common example is potential production delay. So whenever you make production planning, you should accept the risk that there might be some delays in your production planning. Yes, that is unavoidable. You cannot avoid that. So what you have to do, you have to tolerate or accept the risk rather than trying to treat or mitigate or trying to eliminate it. Okay. Now that is one risk management strategy, that is tolerate or accept the risk. Now what is the second risk management strategy? Terminate or eliminate the risk. What do you mean by terminating or eliminating the risk? See, whenever there is a high probability and the impact of risk is also very high, it may be best to modify any project strategy to avoid them altogether. Say for example, if you feel that it is a risky thing to do business with a supplier, then it is better you leave him there and have collaboration with another supplier. That means now what you did, you have totally terminated or eliminated the risks that you get with that supplier. Likewise, a technology. If you feel that a particular technology is a very risky thing, then instead of trying your hand at that technology, it is better all the way you stop using that technology. So that is one strategy called as termination or elimination of risk. Okay. And in the previous case study which you have seen, even RS Limited decided to purchase the equipment from XY Limited after making a lot of analysis and research. Why they have shortlisted XY Limited? Because they have analyzed all the things and finally found out that this XY Limited is the best supplier, the best vendor. In that way, they have tried to eliminate the risk. And the next one, transfer or share the risk. So sometimes you cannot totally terminate or eliminate the risk. So you need to think of risk mitigation, how to reduce the risk. And definitely in order to reduce the risk, the best strategy is to transfer or share the risk to others, or risk with others, like transferring the cost of realized risk to an insurance provider. This is one way of transferring or sharing the risk. Or another best example and good example for transferring or sharing the risk with others is outsourcing. So rather than doing things on your own, today a lot of avenues are available. So if you can outsource the things to maximum extent, you can transfer or share risk with others. And the last one, treating or mitigating the risk. So when all other options have been eliminated, that means if it is not possible to tolerate or accept the risk, or terminate or eliminate the risk, or transfer or share the risk, then what you have to do? You have to try to mitigate the risk. Okay, so you have to make controls to prevent the risk from manifesting itself or to minimize its effects. That means even though the risk happens, you should be in a position to minimize the impact of that risk. You know, for example, here one very good example is given. If sufficient supplies are not there to meet the high demand, so what you have to do? You have to go for subcontracting, or you have to procure it beforehand. You have to expand your business. You have to scale up your business. These are some risk mitigation strategies. Okay, so these are the 4 strategies. Now let us sum up what are the 4 strategies: tolerate or accept the risk, terminate or eliminate the risk, transfer or share the risk, and treat or mitigate the risk. Now let us move on to the next question. What is the next question? As technology is taking new forms every day, okay, the business processes and standards adapted by various enterprises should consider different set of IT related risks and challenges from time to time. Discuss them. Yes, definitely technology may gives lot of risks to the business. So we have business related risks, we have technology related risks, we have strategy related risks, lot of risks to the business. And now the question that is being asked is IT related risks and challenges that an enterprise can have. And now the first one is a very easy one to understand: the downtime due to technology failure. Downtime due to technology failure. All of a sudden your servers may go wrong, your equipment may experience a failure. So what happens? Your website will be dysfunctional, people cannot access your data, people cannot open your website. So this is one of the biggest risk in technology, and we don't know when the servers gets failed. So the downtime due to technology failure, that is one of the biggest risk, or it's the biggest challenge even. Frequent changes or obsolescence of technology. The technology keeps on changing. New updates, upgrades, they come on constantly. And the best technology of today will become obsolete tomorrow. And it will be a very costly affair for the organization to invest a lot of money all the time in getting the new technology or in acquiring the new technology. It's a lot of investment. So that is another biggest challenge. And the next one, multiplicity and complexity of systems. See, in organizations, we use different types of technologies and we require different skill sets. We require people having different skill sets. We need to recruit them, we need to pay them more, and each and every technology will have their own risks and controls. So it's not so easy for a large business to handle this voluminous size of technology risks. And the next one, different types of controls for different technologies. Just now I told you, if you use or if you deploy different technologies in your organizations, definitely it gives rise to new types of risks. And proper alignment with business objectives and legal and regulatory requirements. You know, many times this do not happen in the companies. They do not align the business objectives with the requirements. Objectives are different, the technology they use is different, and the technology is no way related to the achievement of the business objectives. And that is the biggest risk. That will be a lot of wastage of time, money and effort of the top level management. And dependence on vendors due to outsourcing of IT services. Now what can we do? There is no other alternative left to us. In order to mitigate the risk, in order to transfer or share the risk, we need to outsource the operations. We need to get the things from different vendors. And definitely that may prove to be a biggest risk to us. And vendor related concentration risk. For example, if you buy all things, the hardware, software, network, people, everything from a single vendor, and all of a sudden if there is a problem to that vendor, you will have an effect on your business. So that is definitely a biggest risk, vendor related concentration risk. And if segregation of duties is not properly done in your organization, if the entire work is being done by a single individual in your company, and if you say in our company end to end is done by a single person, that is a biggest problem. There should not be aggregation of duties. Instead, there should be segregation of duties. That is the most important thing. So if there is no segregation of duties, if a particular duty or a work or a task is not segregated among different people, then that will definitely give rise to risk. So there should be definitely segregation, that is separation. What do you mean by segregation? Separation of duties should be there. And external threats leading to cyber frauds or crime. So far we have seen the internal threats, but today there are many hackers from outside. They want to hack our data, they want to hack our servers. This causes a large problem to us. External threats. See, threats are of two types, internal threats and external threats. So far we have discussed internal threats. Now these are external threats. Threats from hackers, cyber frauds. They always want to accept our data, okay, and higher impact due to intentional or unintentional acts of internal employees. This is internal threat again. See, there may be some employees who are very enthusiastic. They want to explore and they want to do a lot of research, and they use our servers, our data for their research. And if something goes wrong, our entire servers will collapse. So that is the biggest risk. And sometimes there will be some disgruntled employees, the employees who are very angry on the organization. So they want to show their wrath on the organization. So that kind of risk is also there. Higher impact due to intentional or unintentional. See, these enthusiastic employees, they make unintentional attacks or unintentional things. But whereas the employees who are disgruntled, who are very angry on the organization, definitely they do some intentional acts which spoils our servers and all. And new social engineering techniques to acquire confidential credentials. See, today these fraudsters, hackers, they are employing lot number of social engineering techniques using social media applications and all to get the confidential data of the organizations. That is becoming a biggest risk today. And you know, if there are no proper governance policies to adequately manage technology and information security in your organization, definitely that is going to be a biggest risk. So for that reason, the senior management should be involved in directing how technology is deployed, and appropriate policies should be designed by the top level management, and need to ensure continuity of business process in the event of major exigencies. That means indirectly it is said here, every organization should have BCP, business continuity planning, and DRP, disaster recovery planning. So these methods should be there. For example, in case if there is an emergency and the main servers are down, so definitely you need to have backup servers. There should be a mechanism to restore the backup, and there should be disaster recovery servers. These all things should be there. And now the thing is, if the same question is being asked in the examination, how many points you have to write? So the best part is, it is better you write at least, you be thorough with at least 8 points, 8 to 10 points if you are thorough, and definitely you can write at least 6 to 8 points, you will get good marks. And coming to the content inside the side heading, how much to write, it is better you write at least 2 to 3 sentences for every side heading. That is more than enough. And if you can remember the examples, if you write, that is better. Otherwise, you can exclude the examples. Now, let us see the next question. Now, the next question is from Chapter 2, Financial and Accounting Systems. Let us read the question. An organization ABC Limited has well implemented ERP. What is that? Enterprise Resource Planning in its working environment. And Mr. Karan is hired to conduct the audit of ABC Limited's ERP system for which he decides to segregate the audit into two parts: audit of data and audit of processes. What aspect shall he consider under these audits? So Mr. Karan has been hired to conduct the audit of ABC Limited's ERP system. And in an ERP system, how many types of audits will be there? Two types: audit of data and audit of process. Now, what aspects should be considered under audit of data and audit of processes? So, see, this is the most important thing you have to understand. Whenever a name is mentioned in the question, you should always make it a habit to relate your answer with the question, connecting your answer to the context given in the question. That is the most important thing. So in the question, Mr. Karan has been authorized to, has been hired to conduct the audit. Now, in your answer should also start with Mr. Karan. That is the most important thing. You should know the art of connecting your answer to the context given in the question. Okay. Now, auditing aspects that Mr. Karan should consider in case of ERP systems. Okay. Now, how many types of audits are there? Audit of data and audit of processes. Now, what are the aspects that Mr. Karan has to pay attention while auditing the data of an ERP system? Okay, so Mr. Karan has to check whether there is physical safety to the data in the organization or not. All the physical controls like doors, door locks, all these things are there or not. CC cameras, dogs, guards, whether all these things are installed or not, he has to check out. And the next most important thing Mr. Karan has to pay attention is access control. Is everyone being allowed to enter? Mr. Karan has to check it out. Access control. Who is getting access to the data? Who is getting access to the things? And you know, the most important thing in any organization is you need to provide access to any person based on need to know basis. For example, a junior accountant need not verify the profit and loss account. He need not know about the balance sheet. It is just enough for him to make entries. He need not look at the financial statements. He need not know about the cash flow statement. So those are all managerial level statements. So every person in the organization should have access to the data only based on need to know basis. That is most important, and Mr. Karan in this context has to check whether in that organization there is the policy of need to know basis. Now, the next one, auditing of process. Now, Mr. Karan, in addition to audit the data, he has to audit the processes also. What he has to pay attention? The first one is functional audit. That means Mr. Karan has to audit different functions of the organization. What are the different functions of the organization? Mr. Karan has to check the overall process of purchase, how it is happening. Are there any risks? Are there any loopholes? Are there any bottlenecks? And what about the sales process, salary calculation process, recruitment process, etc. See, a business organization is a bundle of processes. And you need to analyze all the processes that are being used in ERP system. If some process is not there in ERP, leave it out. But if a particular process is in ERP, so definitely you have to audit. What are the risks involved in that? That you have to do. And what is the actual process and what is the process that is being carried out in the ERP? This has to be matched. And the next one, input validations. Input validations means what? Mr. Karan has to enter the data and check the rules of input, whether they are being followed or not. He has to check the validity of the data. He has to check whether all the input controls are functioning properly or not. Say for example, wherever in a particular column, like say, 0 should not be entered. Now what Mr. Karan has to do? He has to enter 0 there and check out whether the system is accepting it or not. If there are proper input controls, the system should not accept it because 0 is not allowed in that particular field or column. But he has entered it. And now the system should prompt an error, should show an error. If the system shows an error, that means the control is working fine, perfect. Okay. Now, so that is that question. Now let us move on to the next question from financial and accounting systems. What is that question? The ERP of an organization consists of many business process modules. Yes, we know that. And these processes have either a direct or indirect effect on financial status of the organization. Yes, that is fine because each and every business process at one or the other point is connected with the finance process, out of which controlling module is one such module. Generally in ERP softwares, we have module called FICO, F-I-C-O, like this. So F-I-C-O stands for finance and control. So control is an important module related to finance. Now here what is being asked? The features of controlling module. And to the best of my knowledge, this question can be asked in the examination. It is better you pay attention to this question and read this question. Now, what are the key features of controlling module in an ERP? See, the first feature is cost element accounting. So, in order to control the things inside the organization, in order to control the things in the production department, what is required? You need to have an analysis of the cost elements. So, you have the module has to check out about the cost centers, how internal orders has been processed, how work breakdown structures are functioning, and what will be the cost of different elements, what is the revenue we are getting from that. These all things should be done properly. Only then we will have a better idea about the costing of the things. And the next one, cost center accounting. You know, what will be the cost of hiring an employee? What will be the cost of firing an employee? What will be the cost of procuring goods? Like this you need to check out. Okay, so that is called as cost center accounting. That means different cost centers, different costs that are incurred for business for different activities. Those are called as cost centers. So basing on that, you need to analyze. That is called as cost center accounting. And in cost center accounting, what are the areas? There will be cost centers in the areas of marketing, purchasing, human resources, finance, facilities, information systems, administrative support, legal or shipping or receiving, or even quality. So there will be cost centers everywhere because we incur costs for different things. So that also should be there. And the next one, every one of you know, activity based costing. So for a particular activity, what is the cost involved? Because in order to complete an activity, there will be cross-functional or cross-departmental costs. Because a business process in reality will involve cross-functional or cross-business processes. Okay. So for that we need to know we need to ascertain the cost. So that is called as activity-based accounting. And the next one, how the internal orders for a specific job have been processed. That we need to check out. So we need to check out the costs that are incurred for a particular order to execute. For example, there was a sales order. So how much cost you incur to execute that sales order? That you need to ascertain. And product cost controlling. So product cost controlling means what? What will be the product cost and what will be the optimal thing? These all things you need to find out. And profitability analysis, the most important thing in controlling module. That is the reason FICO is the most important module and CO module, that is controlling module, is the most important because it gives you a very deeper understanding of what is happening in your business. What are the costs you are incurring? What is the revenue you are getting? What are the profits you are getting? So for that you require profitability analysis. And you may be doing business in several marketing segments and you want to know the margins that you get segment wise. Yes, you can get it from the profitability analysis option of control module. and profit center account. Like cost centers, we have profit centers. So how much of profit we are getting from the northern region, from the southern region, from a particular individual, from a particular area. In that way, we can ascertain. That is called as profit center accounting. So these are all the things that are available in CO module, in control module of an ERP software. And now let us move on to the next lesson. What is the next lesson? That is Information System and its Components, Chapter 3. So an efficient and effective telecommunication network gives an organization the capability to move information rapidly among various employees and suppliers to cooperate with each other from anywhere and anytime. So now, what is this all? This is all the advantage that we get from a network to an organization, either to an organization or to an individual. And now, what is the question being asked here? Discuss the types of computer network and also its benefits. Very easy question, very easy question. Different types of computer network. We already know we have two types of computer networks, connection oriented networks and connectionless networks. We have two types of computer networks in our syllabus, connection oriented network and connectionless network. What is connection oriented network? In order to communicate with other device or the other individual, what you have to do? A connection is established first. First you have to establish a connection. That is, whenever you make a call to a person, first of all you give them a call and the other person should respond, and now a dedicated line is established between you and the other person, and now you can communicate. This is the best example of communication or connection oriented networks, like it happens in the case of telephone networks. Now what is the second one? Connectionless network. What do you mean by connectionless network? I want to communicate something to you, but there is no need of any fixed dedicated line of communication between you and me. Okay, so what is required? I can just drop you a message and the message reaches you in different ways. There is no need of dedicated established connection between you and me for the communication to happen. That is called as connectionless networks, like it happens in the case of postal. You just drop in the letter and the letter reaches the other person. But in the meantime, it travels different locations, it is placed at different places, but ultimately it reaches the destination. That is connectionless networks. And now what are the benefits of computer network? Very easy to understand. In a computer network, the information is distributed among the client and the server. Or sometimes the information is distributed among different servers. So I can have I may have different servers, server A, server B, server C, and I can store information in these servers. Distributed nature of information. That is possible through network, and through that we can also achieve security. And the next important thing, the most important, whenever anyone talks about network, the first and foremost advantage they talk about is resource sharing. What you can do with a network, you can share the resources, you can share the data, you can share anything in a network. So resource sharing. So data can be shared, peripherals can be shared, everything can be shared. You have a printer and you want to share it with all of others in the office. Yes, you can do it. That is resource sharing. You can share the data. Okay. And your data is stored in the central data center at the bank, and the same data has been shared by all the ATMs across the world or across the country. That is another example of resource sharing. And next, the computational power. In case of computer network, you need not have a powerful computer everywhere. It is just enough if you have a very powerful server, and that server being connected to the clients. And this server will give its processing power, capability to all the clients. So you can have that computational power, sharing of computational power. See, for example, you can distribute the processing also. You can divide the processing also. Here best example is given. processing in an ATM machine in a bank is distributed between ATM machine and the server in the bank. So the ATM machine need not be a very powerful machine to execute the tasks. At the back end, we have such a very big server, and that executes everything. And that is given to you through the ATM machine, which may not be such a very sophisticated machine. And now reliability. Again, this is in our experience. For example, there are multiple ATMs in a city, and if one ATM goes wrong, you need not worry. You can just walk into another ATM and make your work, do your work. That means if one system fails, you can complete your work using another system. That is called reliability. And of course, we use networks simply for the sake of user communication, and we are masters, we are experts in doing that user communication. And now let us move on to the next question. For an organization XYZ Limited, the data is critical resource, not only for XYZ, for any organization in the world, data is the critical resource. And discuss various data resource management controls that should be well implemented in the organization to achieve this objective. Very important question, very important question. And we can simply guess the answer also, because maintaining the data security and integrity is the most important thing in any organization. So what are the data resource management controls? How you protect your data resource? The first one is definition controls. What do you mean by definition controls? See, in order to store the data, you need to define the data. In order to store the data, you need to first define the structure to store the data. So while you are preparing the data to be stored, you need to define the table structure, you need to define the view structure, these all things. That means you need to decide the structure, how you store the data. Those are called as definition controls. And you have to properly define the structures to store the data. Those are called as definition controls. Then the data will be perfectly stored in the database. And there should be the most important thing, existence and backup controls. In time of any emergency or exigency, if your data is lost, if your major server or main server is down, so definitely you need to have existence and backup controls. You need to periodically take the backup of your data, and whenever there is something wrong, definitely you should be in a position to restore the data as early as possible in the least amount of time. That is very important. So what do you mean by backup? Backup refers to the making copies of the data. And what do you mean by recovery? You just recover the data from the backup and use it normally. And there are different backup strategies like, dual recording of data, recording data at two places so that the data at one place is lost. Immediately you can work with the data at other place. Periodic dumping of data, like, every day midnight you can take the backup of the data, or every hour, depending on the urgency, frequency and importance of the data. And logging input transactions and changes to the data may be used. Now the most important data resource management control is access control. You should not allow any unauthorized person to view your data, to retrieve your data, or to make any calculations on your data, or to destroy your data. So what do you have to do? You need to have very strong authentication and authorization procedures so that no person can easily enter into your organization's database. And also you need to use different controls like passwords, tokens, biometric controls, data encryption controls to keep your data more secure so that unauthorized people do not access your data. And the next one, update control. See, this is the most dangerous thing. If people in an unauthorized manner, if they update the data, that will be the most dangerous thing. So you should have proper update control so that the unauthorized people do not update the data or delete the existing data. And another very serious risk is concurrency risk. Your data is being accessed by more than one person at the same time. Then there arises a concurrency issue, and you need to have proper controls, because if, say for example, there is a piece of data here and the same piece of data is being accessed by more than one person at the same time, that leads to concurrency problem. And that also disturbs the integrity of the data, because the data may be changed. One person may change the data without the knowledge of other person. So you need to have concurrency controls. And the last one, quality controls. Quality controls means what? You need to have accuracy, completeness of the data, consistency of the data. You need to maintain all these things in the data. Your data needs to be accurate. Your data needs to be complete. Your data needs to be consistent. And for that, what should be done? The input of your data should be done in a perfect manner. There should be perfect batch controls. By using perfect input controls and batch controls, you can get the quality of the data. And they are called as quality controls. So these are all the different controls. What are the controls? Let me tell you. Definition controls, existence or backup controls, access controls, update controls, concurrency controls, and quality controls. And now let us move on to the next question from Emerging Technologies chapter. Yes. What is the question here? E-commerce or M-commerce and emerging technologies. It has been observed that in most of the organizations, computer nodes in their network remain underutilized, leading to wastage of the computing resources at large. Whenever the word underutilized is given in the question, immediately grid computing should come to your mind, because grid computing is such a very good concept where we can make use of the underutilized resources for the optimum utilization. Okay. So this question is about grid computing. So in this question, we have been asked to write about the benefits of grid computing. Now, what are the benefits of grid computing? So in grid computing, what happens? Already there is a resource and there is underutilization of that resource. And now we want, using a network, we want to use that underutilized resource and make it to be useful to others. That is the main and core concept of grid computing. Now, what is grid computing? First one, making use of underutilized resources. At some places, the processors may be underutilized, the memory may be underutilized. So this grid framework, what it will do is, it will provide a framework for exploiting, for tapping those underutilized resources and get it collected at one place. Many things are wasted at many places. You collect all those wasted things and collect at one place. That is called as grid. Okay. You collect from different locations. Say there are different locations like A, B, C, D, E, like this. So at location A, something is wasted, get it here, get it from B, get it from C, D, E. And this is what is grid here. So what you are collecting? Yes, we can collect anything. We can collect the processing power that is being wasted at different locations. We can collect the memory that is being wasted at different locations. And we can make use of it for much bigger thing. And the next one is resource balance. Definitely, whenever there is optimum utilization, there will be resource balancing. What do you mean by resource balancing? At some places, the resources are underutilized, and at some other places, we want more resources. Now, the grid computing offers a solution. How? We can collect the resources from where they are underutilized, and we can make and you can use them wherever you want. With that, what is happening? Resource balancing is happening. Okay. So, say for example, an unexpected peak can be routed to relatively idle machines in the grid. So, whenever some machines are experiencing peak loads, you can just transfer the work to the machines that are idle. So a resource balancing happens. And parallel CPU capacity. See, this is the biggest advantage. That is why we say the grid computer is a cheapest alternative to supercomputer. Because in a grid computer, we will have parallel CPU capacity like in supercomputer. Because your work is now being done by multiple CPUs, because the work is being shared with different systems having different CPUs. So definitely there will be parallel CPU capacity. That is the most important thing. And virtual resources and virtual organizations for collaboration. In grid computing, I don't know with whom I am collaborating, but my work gets done. That is virtual collaboration. There is no physical collaboration. Everything happens through network. My data is sent through network and process it there, and I get it back. So virtual organizations, virtual collaboration, and I can share my license with others. Others can share their licenses with me. And if others are having some specialized device, and if I want to use that for my data processing, I can send my data to them. These all things are possible with the help of grid computing. And access to additional resources. So for example, I can have any resource through network, and the biggest advantage of network is resource sharing, and grid is a kind of network. So I can share any resource. I can share CPU, storage, memory, bandwidth, anything I can share with others, or others can share with me. And reliability. So in grid computing, what happens? Even if some systems are off, definitely other systems will keep on running. So there will be no interruption in the service. And management. That means grid management is one of the important issue that we need to understand. Managing grid is not so easy, because there will be heterogeneous devices that are present, heterogeneous systems are present, and we need to check out all those things. So grid management is definitely an issue. And now the next one, in a e-business environment, all e-commerce and m-commerce transactions have various risks associated with them. Obviously, discuss various risks that prevail in a e-business environment. So this is again a very important question that is related to the risks of e-commerce. Okay, the risks that are involved in e-commerce applications. It's very easy thing. The first and foremost thing is privacy and security. These e-commerce companies, they collect the private data, the sensitive data from the customers. And now, it is a big challenge for the companies to protect the security of the data of the customers. That is one of the most important thing. And if the data is lost, if the customer data is lost, then the organization has to face a lot of legal issues and problems. So privacy and security, maintaining privacy and security becomes the most important risk for an e-commerce business. And the quality issues. So many times the customers make a complaint that what is shown is different from what is delivered. So quality issues. Today we come across a lot of quality issues, especially in the apparel business, apparel e-commerce business and all. And the delay of goods in the hidden costs. So the goods are not delivered on time, and if you book goods from other countries, then there will be a lot of hidden costs. That is also one of the risks in e-commerce business. And the most important thing is internet is required, which is the backbone for e-commerce, and there is no personal touch with the customer, and you don't know who is purchasing from you, and he don't know who are you. This problem will come. And every day, every moment we hear that there are a lot of security and credit card issues during e-commerce transactions. And the organization has to maintain a lot of IT infrastructure like servers, computers, people, and also they need to have good physical infrastructure availability also. Because for example, if I sell my goods to a remote location and if I cannot reach my customer, how can I deliver my goods there? So infrastructure is becoming a biggest hurdle for the expansion of e-commerce businesses. And this is another problem of anonymity. I don't know who is purchasing from me and what is the address, what are the credentials given by them, whether they're correct or not, I don't know. So I don't know the person, because anyone can purchase from anywhere or buy from anywhere, sell from anywhere. So anonymous. The buyer don't know the seller and seller don't know the buyer. So that may sometimes cause risk. And I may keep it order and later I may deny it, I may repudiate it. So that is also an issue. And the next one, lack of authenticity of transactions. And of course today we have that. Authenticity is there. That's not a big issue. And the data may be lost. That is another issue. And always attack from hackers. They want to hack your servers, hack the data, steal the personal information of the customers. That will be a big risk. And we don't know when the servers will go down and when the website works or when the website will not work. We don't know all the things. And in some countries there may be non-recognition of electronic transactions, but as far as our India is concerned, we have recognition of electronic transactions. And if the business wants to make an audit trail, that means if the business want to make audit trail, that is if they want to check out the logs, records, then in some systems, in some setups, that may not be possible. And some pirated goods, sometimes they may be sold online. So these are all the issues and risks. So if, for example, if this question is asked, how many points you need to write, it is better always you read some 6 to 8 points, so that even if the question is asking for 5 marks or 6 marks, you can definitely answer and you can easily answer 6 to 8 points. So it's not so required to read all the 15 points and remember them. So 6 to 8 is a good number to remember. Now the next one, core banking systems. Now what is the question that is being asked in the core banking system? Yeah. The technology components of a core banking system allows the banks to deploy new state-of-art and innovative banking services as prescribed under cyber security framework of RBI in our country. Highlight the key measures that are required to implement network security and secure configuration of core banking system. So this question is about what kind of network security should be there in a core banking system. So these are all the things. The first one is there should be multi-layered boundary defense through properly configured proxy servers, firewalls, intrusion detection system to protect the network. So for example, here you are having the bank network and there should be a protection around this bank network in the form of proxy servers, firewalls and intrusion detection systems, IDS, IPS, these all things. That is the first and foremost care you have to take to protect your servers. And the next one, different LAN segments for in-house or on-site ATM. That is what happens in our banks. For example, the branch network is different, ATM network is different. Of course, they may use the same server, but they use different types of networks to connect the data. So that is another mechanism. And to ensure secure network configuration, proper usage of routers, hubs and switches. These things should be used properly. And you have to periodically review the systems and terminals to assess if there are any weaknesses in the network, if there are any problems in the network. And what is the risk appetite of the bank? If the bank really gets the risk, can the bank withstand that? That also you need to check out periodically. So those are the things that a bank has to take care regarding the network security. And the next one and the last one, most of the banks offer credit cards. Yes, obviously. Now what is the thing asked here? Various risks involved in credit card process of the banks. So this is a common thing, everyone knows, the issuers of the credit card know, the users of the credit card know. What is the first risk? Credit line setup is unauthorized and not in line with the bank's policy. That means before issuing the credit card, there will be certain rules and regulations, but the credit cards are issued without keeping those things in mind. So we need to address that issue. And credit line setup is unauthorized and not in line with the bank's policy. That means everyone is issuing the credit card. The authorized personnel, in addition to the other authorized personnel, even unauthorized people are also issuing the credit card. So you need to handle that situation. And master files are defined for customer are not in accordance with the pre-disbursement certificate. That means maker checker rights are not properly followed, proper authorization is not there before issuing of the credit cards. So these all things are there. And credit line setup is breached. That means for every person, depending on their income levels, a credit limit will be there, but that is not being followed. And there are some problems in the calculation of interest, and some hidden charges are being added, and we are getting a lot of legal complaints from the customers that we need to address. And inaccurate reconciliation, the reconciliation between the balances that you receive from your credit card provider and what the balance you are showing, it is not being reconciled. You are having problems with that. So these are all the problems that you come across in a credit card network. So this is the explanation of revision test paper for November 2022 attempt. All the best. Thank you.